Okay, so what we are going to cover today is comprehensively what I intend to do, since myself and Neeraj are both part of the technology studios. What I intend to do today is comprehensively take you towards understanding structural systems, understanding structural systems for large span structures. Okay, and I intend to do that. I intend to do that gradually by way with the idea of design in some sense, and in that sense, I would like you all to understand that what are the complications that are associated with our project and how we intend to go ahead. So I'll start presenting my screen, and let's hope with the mouse I'm in some position to draw today. So can you see my blank screen? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So what we intend to do today is we intend to look at the two layers in some sense. Oh, now suddenly the mouse. Yeah. So what we intend to do today is we intend to look at this entire volume that is there of the auditorium or whatever that is there is not helping. It's not helping. It's not helping. I've not drawn earlier using a mouse and it's not helping. So how do I do it? How do I do that? Okay. So what what I'm trying to what I'm trying to make you understand is that we are going to have as good as three layers. Yeah. The first layer in some sense is going to be like we all know our auditorium floor plate is going to be something like that. Okay. And you know, the in some sense there is going to be another plate that is also going to be like that on top. Yeah, there's going to be something in between, and then but naturally there is going to be a roof. Okay, let's as of now take the conventional three plates. Let's take it as of now the conventionally three plates to be one above the other. Okay, and in the format of the seating area that is there. Though we all know that we can have all kinds of seating areas. I do not know if Meenal has started the classes on auditorium planning. We can have rectangular seating areas with stage on one end, and but naturally, you know, we can have ones with the conventional wedge shaped conventional wedge shape. Oh my God, why is this not helping me? Yeah, tablet would have been so much fun to work with. I really don't know why it is not helping me. Yeah. Why am I having this difficulty today? Yeah. So the other can be the conventional wedge shape layout that we usually work with. Yeah. We also know that we can have square auditorias with, you know, stages in the corner. Yeah. All kinds of formats are available. Yeah. We can but naturally have uh, and where the stage can be in the center and the seats can be on all four sides. In so sense, yeah, all kinds of profiles are possible. We won't get into those because I'm sure Meenal is working, helping you understand those as part of services and acoustics. What I'm trying to make you understand today is that we are going to be working with three layers. One is usually the basement layer. one is the floor plate, and one is the roof. And in between that is what we are going to have, the balcony, in some sense, an area, a balcony area that we are very keen that you also resolve in some sense. Now, if we are going to look at these three, each of these three, each of these three have, each of these three have, uh, each of these three, each of these three is, each of these three have their own, so to say, attributes in some sense, or have their limitations. Like a basement will be planned in a manner, a basement will be planned in a manner whereby you can have all kinds of services. You'll have driveways. Yeah. You may have a driveway. You may have a ramp that goes down. You never know. Yeah. But naturally, this is the area of the auditorium that is going to be of minimal support. So, but naturally you'd want, yeah, you'd want, so, so you'd want that large area also to go down into your basement area. That will help you in your parking, minimal columns. Okay, there'll be, but naturally a peripheral area. Okay, like if this is the profile I'm presently looking at, there is but naturally going to be some outside area that is there, that I last time spoke to you in the lecture about, that said that, that's your core and that's your envelope. Yeah. If we talk about the core and the envelope, yeah, then very clearly, you'll have toilets in the envelope area. Yeah. All kinds of services, driveways, entryways and all that. Now, if you have toilets in your envelope area, you don't want those toilet ducts and pipes to go down into your basement. So most of the time your basement area will largely be associated with the core area that doesn't have these unwanted services. Yeah. And that's why I did draw the profile of the basement parallel to that of the seating area, such that, such that we don't want to take unwanted services down. Though, on the other hand, services like air conditioning, yeah, help are a great help when you work with basement areas. Yeah, like you want ducts to come up, yeah, along the walls. You want ducts to come up from various areas, and in that sense, pipelines that run for air conditioning, supply of cold water, supply of cold air. You have various kind of air conditioning systems, some in which they supply cold water, some in which they supply cold air directly from the plant room. And in that sense, basements are a big help on that front. But beyond that, you don't want toilets to go down and things like that. So perhaps you'll have to take a call to what extent you'd like to have a basement, whether you like to have a basement that encompasses the entire building footprint on the ground, or only some part of the building that goes below the ground. Bottom line, we are all looking at basement design in some sense, because we are looking at a compact building and a more layered building, as we've said earlier. Now, so the basement support or the basement structural system is going to be very different in some sense. It's going to comprise of what we usually know as a raft. Okay. It comprises of a raft at the bottom of it. It comprises of what is called as a, retaining wall at its side. So all this at the side in some sense is a retaining wall. Yeah. That makes up the volume between the ground floor and the basement. So these are all retaining walls. We'll take up retaining walls clearly in a different class in order to explain you what basement structure is all about. But naturally, we also have these columns at the side. We have these columns at the side of the auditorium, yeah, or whatever this seating area that is there, on all the edge on all, and they may be placed close by along the periphery. Yeah, they are close by and placed along the periphery, and they form the columns. And from these are, but naturally, the floor plate is supported, the balcony is supported, and but naturally the roofing system is supported. And today we are going to talk about this largely in some kind of detail, or we are going to talk about these the kind of options that are there, yeah, that talk about spanning this, yeah, to talk about spanning this. So what is it that you'd like to span this across? And that's going to be important that's going to be important initially. Yeah. What are you going to span across the auditorium? Either in concrete, either in RCC, either in steel. What is it that you'd like to span across? Yeah. What is it that you'd like to span across? Sad that the tablet is not working and that I'm not able to draw. Can I try the phone? Perhaps the phone will be better. Can I try the phone? Just, yeah. So let me try in the next session. Perhaps I'll try using the phone. Perhaps sketching on the phone may be a better idea. Yeah, just a minute. Can I take a minute off and try if I can log in through the phone and see if I can sketch via the phone, maybe easier. Or perhaps we'll do that after the break. We'll do that after the small break that we give. Bottom line, today's talk is going to be about how we see whether we can span, how we are in a position to span. So bottom line, this building has three or four structural opportunities. One is for the raft below, one is for the slab on the ground floor, but naturally because on the top of the basement you'll have a slab, yeah, unlike a plinth that would have been there. Then you'll have some structural system that is going to be in a position to support your balcony and a smaller floor plates. And then, but naturally, these columns are going to support a kind of a roof, which you can decide to be a concrete roof or a lightweight metal roof. So you have four possibilities of a structural system, one on top of the other. And based on that, your design is largely going to evolve. But before we get into that, I thought it was necessary first to quickly brush up on the kind of structural understanding that you have had earlier. Yeah. And what is that? And that is that, first of all, you have, I think in the lower year, in the second year, looked at how slab systems work, RCC slab systems work. So before we go ahead, yeah, we'll try to look at okay, so what is the kind of slab system that we are there? I've purposely gone onto the PowerPoint because I gather that the sketching is not helping me. So perhaps the next effort that I take is where I can use the phone and start sketching, because I have a pretty decent large phone, and that can yeah, and that can help me in getting that and doing that simultaneously. So what I'll do is I'll just I'll start initially with the so to say PowerPoint, whereby we can discuss we can do some revision on the kind of slab systems that are there and what is part of our understanding as part of the syllabus that we need to cover now. And then, but naturally we can get into, so as far as you know, slab systems start with the basic one-way slab system, the two-way slab system, the flat slab system, the one-way, and then, but naturally this time we are going to be introducing four different advanced slab systems. That is the flat slab system, what is called as a one-way ribbed slab system, a two-way ribbed slab system, and two-way rib slab system is also well known as a waffle slab, and a diagrid slab system. I'm sure the first two are covered in the lower years, but nevertheless, we'll quickly run through them in order to understand whether you know them or not. Beyond that, beyond the flat slab system is something that we are supposed to introduce you here, and whether you can apply them in your projects, that is there. But actually each of these distinct slab systems have advantages and disadvantages. Yeah, most of them talk about the kind of profile, the column profile, okay, the kind of slab system type, all of that, the load carrying capacity types, cost, aesthetics, all of them that matter. Yeah. So let's look at a one-way slab system. In a one-way slab system, as you all know, and if I'm to revise, is that the base size is kept in a manner which is, yeah, on one hand it is kept to be the slab profile is in a manner, or the slab span is in a manner where the slab spans in the shorter direction. The slab spans in the shorter direction, which is kept preferably less than 3 meters. Yeah, and the beams are and the beams are on the other end. Yeah, so that the load spanning takes, and the great advantage is that the main bars in the slab span in the shorter direction, that is considered to be less than 3 meters, and the beams are only along the longer direction, thereby taking the load from the slab and conveying them to the columns that is there. I'm sure you are aware of this. This is called as a one-way slab system. It's considered, it has its disadvantage, that means it can span very short spans in and around 3 meters, not more than that. But the great advantage is that it provides great economy. Yeah, it provides great economy in by way of the kind of bars that are used. The slab is considered lightweight. Yeah, there's minimal amount of steel, and let me tell you, in the slab, the use of the steel is the one that is taking the maximum, kind of costing of the project. Yeah, in a two-way slab, but naturally there is no limitation in the span. The spans, there is nothing as a short span and a long span. Yeah, that means I can comfortably say that a one-way slab system is considered to be rectangularish. A two-way slab system is considered squarish, more or less. Can be squarish, can be rectangles. Bottom line, there are no limitations in the span. But naturally, when there are no limitations in the spans can go beyond 3 meters. Yeah, between 3 and 6 meters is considered to be comfortable. Yeah, you have beams in all four directions and you have bars laid in both the directions. That means you'll have main bars spanning in both the direction, because you want the load transfer in both the directions. You want the load to go to beams on all four sides, thereby transporting the load to the columns that are there. Yeah. So you have beams on all four sides, transfer of load to all four sides. Here you have bars only in the shorter direction. The bars in the longer direction are called something as distribution bars. Yeah, and the load transfer takes place only in one direction, and beams only in the longer direction only, thereby connecting the two columns. Yeah. Now, as we go ahead, okay, so that's a kind of a span that, yeah, that's a kind of a slab span that is comfortable enough up to 6 meters or so. Yeah. Should the spans increase, okay, yeah, then you gather that you have to add stiffness. You have to add stiffness to the slab, and that's where your ribs start coming in. So you try to stiffen the slab by adding ribs to it. Yeah, and that's the advantage that comes about. And yeah, and so we have what is called as ribbed slab, and that is one, and we call is that, as I usually call it, as one-way rib slab. Sometimes these columns tend to come closer to each other along the sides. The span can afford to get larger. You can have this, it is in some ways in line with the one-way slab, because your one span for the column, that is the span in which the ribs are, can afford to be large, whereas the columns come closer in the other span. And so rib slabs are usually applied to a particular linear bay that is there, very similar to one-way slabs, linear bays, but of wide span. Yeah, your one-way span had a difficulty that this could be only 3 meters. Here it can go anything above 6 meters. between 6 and 12 meters, a ribbed span, yeah, a ribbed slab can work well, because here you have, because here you have, because here you have the span that is, here you have the span that is taken care using, you're stiffening the slab by adding ribs to it. Okay, that's how a ribbed slab, yeah, looks, or you can say a one. You could have a one-way slab, yeah. You could have a one-way slab to a very large. That's the advantage I would like to show, that it's not that one-way slabs are to be used only in small bays. That is there. I can have a very large span. Yeah, I could have a very large span. I could have a very large bay, or I could have a very large space in which I could add columns. Yeah, I could have columns that are there, and I could divide them into linear bays, thereby making them all as one-way slabs. So here, if you can see, I can easily solve, this 30 by 30 feet bay as a two-way slab, yeah, by not having any of these beams in between, just the beams along the periphery and main bars in both the directions, and thereby I could have a two-way slab here very clearly, or I can make these spans smaller by adding ribs in between, and they will all act as one-way slabs. That is that. The ribbed slab, one-way ribbed slab, works in this similar format. Yeah, that means you can have the one-way ribbed slab would have a column here and a column there. Sorry, columns at either ends. You would not have this beam in the center, and your ribs could go all throughout, and perhaps you'd have columns in the peripheries. That's smaller bays, but this bay could be large. Yeah. And that's what this rib slab is all about. This 30 feet bay, 30 feet is as good as 10 meters. Yeah. So 10 meters. So this is nothing but a ribbed slab in some sense. Yeah. With the format of the one-way slabs in between. Yeah. So you're getting to understand profiles. What profile works best? You have square profiles. Yeah. And two-way slabs work best. You have rectangular profile of bays, and you will gather that one-way slabs work best for them. Yeah. Then we have, but naturally we have how the bar layouts take place. I hope you gather that, yeah, I do not know if you gather that the bars in the main direction that are there usually have bent bars. So there is a part of the bent bar, usually the bars, yeah, you have one bent bar, you have a part of the bent, because you know that there is a bending moment that goes in like that. Yeah, there's a bending moment that cuts along this 1/3 of the beam or 1/3 of the slab, and that's why you intend to put some bars, main bars along the top, and you bend them, and then the bar goes right till the very end, overlaps to the 1/3 in the other direction. Similarly, the bar comes along the top in the on the other side also, bends and comes to the other end. Yeah, and thereby you are tackling the bending moment along the top by having alternate main bars that are there on the top, whereas alternately there are main bars also at the bottom. Yeah, I think you know that. You must have seen here, this can be for one-way slab. This is for, in one-way slab the main bars are only in one direction. In plan you see how that is. You have a bar that is bent on the top, it comes at the bottom, bar at the top comes at the bottom. Yeah, bar at, so 1/3 of the span, yeah, 1/5 or 1/3, it depends upon your span of the bay. So between 1/3 and 1/5, here it's shown L by 4. So between 1/3 and 1/5, yeah, your bars are along the top. Then they are, most of the bar is then along the bottom, bar at the top, more or less. I'm sure this is covered. I'm sure I'm trying to just do a revision for one-way and two-way slabs that is there. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah, that's how a two-way slab looks. Yeah, a two-way slab. Again, the bars are there. Main bars are there in both the directions. Every bar alternately bends along the 1/3, 1/4 area of the span that is there. Yeah, so 1/4 of the span, 1/5 of the span is bent on top to take care of the bending moments. You can see here 1/5 of the span on top. The bar is on the top, bends, goes right till the very end. 1/5 of the bar at the other end is bent on top and goes in. If it's a continuous span, whereby the slab continues in the other direction, then these bars go ahead and overlap in the other direction also. Yeah. Has this been covered in the lower years? Can anybody confirm?
Guys, I
Has this?
hope you remember this.
Yeah.
In toss first, initially it was taken.
In the
All the
second year, I think
yeah,
Mamta and Neeraj have taken pains in making as many diagrams and explaining you
reinforced.
how this works, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So is this? I hope this is not something new that we are talking about. Yeah. So this is in reality, how in reality it looks. In reality, the bars are bent on the top, 1/3, between 1/3 and 1/5. Yeah, that's the bar that is bent on the top and goes ahead. That's the alternate bar that comes from the other side that is bent on top on the other side, and the bar goes below. Similarly here, yeah, that's your beam. This is part of the slab. These are the bars then that get entangled in the beam, thereby transporting the load into the beam. Yeah. Cantilevers are where the bars go along the top and go all along the top and bend and come back into the beam. That's an edge cantilever, or that's you could say a running chajja or something like that. That's the time where the bending moment is all along the top for a cantilever. And so the bar remains on the top, goes all along the top, bends and comes back and gets entangled into the beam. So the bar comes on top. Yeah, every alternate bar comes on the top, whereas the other bar is always, yeah. So that's it. I did not talk to you about this diagram whereby the international practice is that if you don't want to bend the bar, you could keep pieces of bar along the top to tackle the bending moment along the top. So you could need you Indian practices where we bend the bars and keep the bars continuous. International practices are that you just lay bars, straight bars along the bottom, and wherever you think that there are bending moments that act in a slab along the top, you cut additional bars and you cut these bars and put these bars along the top. So you could have additional bars along the top and you could have some bars along the bottom. Yeah, that's how it that's how it is. Yeah, so that's a cantilever. So I just showed you a 3D of a cantilever. A cantilever, because the bending moment is along the top, this bar that bends along the top continues to be along the top, wraps around and comes and transfers its load to this nearby beam. That's the beam at the closest end, and so that is there. I hope you are able to gather. I hope I'm not too fast. I'm not fast at all. Yeah. That's how cantilevers look. That's at the lower end is a cantilever beam. On the top is a cantilever slab. Yeah. That's exactly what I was talking about. Bars along the top. Yeah. Bars along the top continue to come along the top, preferably bend and get entangled themselves at the closest beam that are there to transfer the load. Yeah. Similarly in beams too, bars come along the top, they bend along the top and then they come and get themselves entangled either in the column or the beam that runs along the periphery. That's a cantilever. So remember, in slabs, your main bars are always along the bottom. In cantilevers, main bars are always along the more or less along the top. Okay. Now, okay. So we do know that, yeah, we do know that we do know that now I'm introducing to the further concepts beyond the one-way and the two-way slab. I already introduced you in some way what is a single ribbed slab, but we are now getting into the further beam slabs systems that is there. That is, we are getting into what is called as a flat slab. Now we do all know that slabs require beams to stiffen or to transfer their loads to the nearby columns that are there, and accordingly the profiles change. Yeah, it's sad that the tablet is not working today, whereby I could have made it much easier for understanding, as I could have simultaneously gone in between the presentation and the, but I'll figure that out somehow or the other. I really don't know what's the issue. Yeah, I think Teams has become pretty heavy. That's why Perhaps it's not opening on smaller devices, but whatsoever. So beams, so to the left is your conventional column beam structure that clearly shows that that clearly shows that um, uh, that clearly shows that load transfer from the slab to the columns you require a network of beams. To the left, you're seeing what is called as a flat slab. I'm just introducing you to the concept. We are not looking at it in detail. In a flat slab, the slab thickness but naturally increases, because what I'm doing is I'm encompassing the beam within the thickness of the slab. It's as good as having hidden beams. So I am going to have hidden beams within this thickness of the slab, and but naturally, because I don't have beams and there is a possibility that areas where the load transfer takes place, yeah, there could be a puncture. I could puncture the slab with these columns in order to strengthen the areas or to make sure that the load transfer from the slab takes place to the columns. I have something what is called as drop panels and capitals. Now, drop panels, as you see here in this photograph above, and that's how a flat slab looks into a basement or a warehouse or something like that without the beams. Flat slabs are a great hit where a lot of services run. If you look here, there are so many pipes that are running around, either for firefighting, either for hot water, firefighting, AC ducting, all of these. These beams can create a lot of hassles. Everything has to, first of all, it eats into the height of the floor, yeah, thereby not helping. Yeah, it eats into the height of the floor and thereby not helping. But um, other than that, it yeah, it all these services need to run around these beams, thereby further eating into the height of the structure. Yeah, today developers who are fighting for floor heights, yeah, or are fighting to put many more floors in the given height that is there. I hope you realize when you design in and around the airport or in certain areas, the floor heights are fixed. The buildings cannot be beyond a certain floor height. And now with the new Bombay airport coming up with the, yeah, which we usually call as an airport cone. If your building is within the airport cone, you have limited floor height to work with, and you want to and you may have additional area to tap, but you want to fit many more floors in between. But that at those point of time, all these unwanted heavy duty beams don't help you. You'd love to have a flat slab where you know your floor height comes down because you're just not your floor space is just not eaten due to unwanted beams. So that's how a flat slab looks like. It has squarish base, more or less squarish base, but naturally with larger spans that are there. You have squarish base with larger spans, and but naturally you have uh, you have columns. You have columns that can they can take down the load, and in order to aid those columns, you have some things that are called as capitals. Yeah, you could have you could have conical capitals, you can have wedge shaped capitals. Here you see you have some octagonal capitals, and then but naturally something called as a drop panel. Yeah. Similarly, you could have, yeah, so what you're seeing here is a one-way ribbed slab that we spoke about earlier. And what you have is a two-way ribbed slab, but naturally with each of these, the spans are increasing. So, but naturally with a one-way ribbed slab and a two-way ribbed slab, your one-way ribbed slab, in the direction of the ribs, the span is large. The columns in the other direction can afford to be small in a two-way ribbed slab, and that therefore a one-way ribbed slab can afford to be much linear. A two-way ribbed slab, but naturally because the ribs are in both the direction, the base can afford to be squarish, and I can have large spans and what we called as a waffle slab. And these spans can go right up to 12 and 15-meter spans. Yeah, as compared to your two-way slabs, which were just 5 and 6 meter base. Now these are 3 times larger. Yeah, as good as 3 times slab. Between 12 and 15 meters spans is what is right up to 18 meters. Yeah, 18-20 meters is what two-way ribbed slabs can go about, because your ribs are in both directions. It is stiffening the slab to a great extent. But naturally the slab thickness along with the rib is much larger. Yeah, but you don't have individual beams. And then, but naturally around the columns where you want the load to transfer, those areas are further stiffened such that the load transfer takes place well. And we'll come to those details of how those corners are stiffened and stuff like that. Here preferably you have beams along the periphery such that your ribs get entangled well and the load transfer via the beam to the column takes place well properly. So before we get into flat slabs, yeah, so uh, these are some of the what we've got. I don't want to get into flat slabs, yeah, but I'd like to look at a comparison. I'd like to look further into a comparison between many more slab systems. So till I get the phone on where I can preferably sketch for you, are there any doubts that you have in whatever we've covered till now? If so, this is the right time to ask. Till then I can see whether I can join via the phone and start sketching on the phone, because it is much more easier to sketch on the phone maybe. The tablet is not responding as yet, sadly. I really don't know what's wrong with it.
Yes,
Technology
Shravan.
can. Yeah, Shravan, tell us.
So when we're looking at the slab in, so the column sizes for the rib slab and the other kind of slab, sorry, I missed the name, where the capital is enlarged. Do
Flat
we
slab.
have a thicker column as well, or is the flat slab? Is the slab only the slab like significantly thicker when you compare it to a rib slab?
It will be. As your slab's spans increase, so is the load coming to the column is going to increase. We can't
Right.
afford to have slender looking columns, right? So
Hmm.
sizes of columns in some sense are proportionate to the slab spans, right? You can't afford to have a large span, lot of load and have dainty and slender looking columns. So that's not possible.
And what happens to a flat slab when it meets a wall? Because in the center you have the columns spanning out like a capital. So at the wall you'll just have the columns spanning out in 180 degrees instead of 360, or
No, no. So first of all, as we go ahead, we'll gather that flat slabs in their in the reinforcement structure that it is, the beside the column there is quite a lot of it's 1/3 of the slab that is actually acting within the slab as a beam. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? The reinforcement
yes,
within the
yes.
slab, okay, around the columns is as good as like 1/3. Okay, so if I have to get back to um, if I use the paint brush only and get back to get back to it's a good question, and it's a little early in the day to come to that, but I'll just come to the. So if I have a flat slab in some sense, okay, usually I do not put the columns at the end. I put the columns somewhere here. Sad, really. I put the columns here. Columns are not at the end. Yeah, columns are not at the end. Why? Because this part of the strip, yeah, on the other side, on either sides of the column is a pretty wide strip, okay, in which the reinforcement is extensive. I could literally have a cantilever beyond the column, beyond 1/3 of the column. I actually have so much of reinforcement in it that could easily have something like a cantilever. That means I need not have the column right at the end of the wall. My columns can be a little away and my wall can come and sit where actually there are no columns and capitals if that is worrying you. You're getting what I'm saying?
So I'll have a smaller bay to the edges, but I can cantilever the roof if I wish to, which is why you see
Yes.
these kind of slabs in like those open lobbies or atriums on Arch Daily.
Yes, to a certain extent. Yes, to a certain extent, you can afford to have, uh, you can afford to have, you can afford to have columns. So that means columns need not sit at the ends of the bay. Columns can be a little inward as comparatively.
Right. Thank you.
Can you give me 5 minutes such that I can join in using another device? Can I just get 5 minutes? If there is any other question, uh, he's also here.
Yeah.
Neeraj is also here. Till then, I'll
Hmm.
just try to join in through some other.
I had a doubt.
Yeah,
Bolo.
go ahead.
So for a normal construction where we use beams and columns in RCC, we tend to give thickness to slab around 110 to 130. So for a flat slab, when we try to like merge the beams and the slab, what becomes the average thickness?
Yeah, so generally, when we are using flat slabs, so beam thickness, we don't take it as, if we are taking beam thickness in general by a conventional method, if we are taking it, let's say 300 or 400 or 500 mm, then for flat slabs, it is generally between 200 to 250 throughout the slab, the thickness, because the reinforcement is increased. The thickness of reinforcement, the cross section of steel is increased than the regular slabs. So in regular slabs, generally we take 100, 120, 125 to 150. So for this, we generally go for 200 or 250. Okay. So that also it can sustain wall thicknesses as well. I mean, wall loads from dead loads from the walls as well. So as Shravan asked, generally what we do is where the wall is going to come, below that we provide beam. That's our general idea. But now in modern construction, if we see around in and around the Mumbai, they are using flat slabs, so they can keep the floor plates open so that the resident can, or the if it's a commercial building, then the owner can build walls according to their convenience. Okay, so the thickness of 200 to 50 is enough to support the walls which are going to come into the rooms. And then the live loads, it is not as much compared to the dead load, so that's fine. So to answer your question, it is around 200 to 250 based on the span how we are going to design it. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Welcome. Any other questions? And the way we use slabs, it depends on the design or the activity or the function which we want for the space below. So it's not like if I want larger span to EMF, I will use flat slab so that I can get more area below without the columns. But if a column is not obstructing your design, or it's okay to have it, then based on that you select the type of system which you are going to use. It's not just based on spans. Okay.
I'm just joining from another device such that preferably we can, I don't know, I'm finding it difficult today, which usually is not the case in my, because I prefer to usually, let's see. How is it that I?
It's echoing. Jimmy. Your voice is echoing.
I think today this is the best mode where we can go ahead. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go. So now I'm going to uh, so so on one hand, so I see you can see my screen. My screen is visible. Neeraj, it is visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah.
Text. Yeah.
So in some sense, in some sense, uh, in some sense, now we need to understand that uh, we have to look at mediums or two modes in being able to in able to yeah, so let's open a fresh thing in order to understand or how do we clear this. So so now we need to look at so now we need to look at how uh, yeah we need to look at how we are in a position to span. Suppose if we are going to work with any of these three floors, yeah, if we are to work with any of these three floors, but naturally your lower floor is going to be what we usually understand as a raft. Okay, a raft are various types of raft systems that are there, and we can take a little time to look at that. That means I'm talking about this area that it is there. Yeah, it's going to be a kind of a slab that is going to be designed in a manner that can take the load from the top as well as the mud up thrust from below. Then you have a floor that but naturally sits above on, yeah, that acts as a floor that is there. And then but naturally has to be either a concrete floor or a metal floor. Yeah, in some sense, usually it's a concrete floor, and for which I did introduce you a couple of a couple of a couple of uh, a couple of so to say systems that are there. And if I were to just recap them quickly, but for that what I'll need to do is that I'll have to shut this, say don't save, and come back again. Yeah. So if I have to come back again, so what I was trying, via the PPT, what I was trying to make you understand is that I can have a square bay like that. Okay. I can have a square bay like that, and I can easily put four columns at its side, which is the big which is a very big understanding in our architecture students, because what we usually do is that we usually give columns wherever we put beams, but that is actually not necessary in some sense, and we need to understand that if this can easily be a two-way slab in some sense. Yeah, usually two-way slab is indicated like that. You could have a two-way slab with beams on all four sides and columns that are there. Yeah, or else the same thing could be, you could have four columns at its four corners, but divide this slab into three other bays, and these could all be one-way slabs. All these could be one-way slabs spanning in the shorter direction. Yeah, spanning in the shorter direction with main bars only in the shorter direction. Yeah, and you keep these bays because these are one way. All these bays are less than 3 meters in some sense, or in some sense you have a linear bay in that area. This is less than 3 meters, and but naturally it spans in the other direction. I'm having a horrible time. I'm not able to sketch using the mouse. Okay. Now, if I were now in a two-way span, usually spans usually between 5 and this bays are usually between 5 and 6 meter, and they work well. Yeah, 5 and 6 meter, and I can easily work with a two-way span in both directions. Yeah, either of this can be 5, and if I have to go beyond 5 and 6 meter, in the case of yours, which is an auditorium or something like that, then but naturally it makes sense that I have to go for a slab system that allows me to span in a large direction in some sense. Yeah. So what does that call? That calls that if I have put columns, if I want to put columns, if I want to put columns at the corners, yeah, I can easily have, God help me. Is my screen jumping a little too much?
Scrolling up and down, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's the issue, man, today. Some issues I'm having today. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So so the first option is that I am in a position to put columns on the corners, and preferably go for a ribbed slab in some sense, whereby my ribs can go in one direction. Yeah, and these columns can afford to be in shorter direction in some sense. That's what rib slab does. So these columns can afford to be in shorter direction. That is that. Or else I can afford to go for a slab system, which allows me, again large span, which allows me to put columns at large base. Yeah, at large base. Suppose I put these columns at really large base. Yeah, in perhaps all four directions here. All of these are columns in some sense, and I could go in for two-way ribbed slabs. Yeah, so they would be ribs in both these directions. Yeah, and these could be a good 12 meter 15 meter span. Yeah, this could be a good 12 meter 15 meter span that is there in both these directions. Yeah, 12 meter 15 meter spans in both these directions, and yeah, that is what can be called as a two-way ribbed slab or a waffle slab. Okay, this same can also be done, yeah, which is something called as a dia grid slab. Now this is something that I've not covered and I'm introducing, is where your beams go in diagonal formats like that. Yeah, By strengthening the slab, I am getting in diagonal formats. Yeah, beams go in diagonal formats, thereby, creating triangular pockets and and strengthening the slab in that sense. Yeah. So I can have four types, and but naturally the flat slab in which, but naturally I am not seeing the beams at all, but I'm just seeing columns along the periphery. But naturally their spans are limited to between 8 and 10 meters. Yeah. But then they act like a normal slab and beam, two-way slab and beam. The only difference is that the slabs are thick, thereby accommodating, thereby accommodating, uh, thereby accommodating. Thereby accommodating beams in the slabs itself. Now, if you compare that with what is called as what is called in metal, how would you work with that in metal? In metal, we have something called as we have what is called as single floors, double floors, and triple floors. Yeah. So in if you look at, if the spans are small, yeah, if the spans are between 3 and 5 meters, we call them as single floor, whereby, yeah, whereby the rafters or your, main rafters or the members, because the span is small, you can afford to have lightweight members, and they go in the smaller direction, in the shorter direction, just like one-way slab, or you have what is called as a roller deck sheet. Yeah, a metal a metal decking sheet that spans in the shorter direction and allows you to have long linear formats. Yeah, and that's what we see in our in our domestic architecture, where we have small base of between 3 and 5 meters, and we can afford to have that. Yeah. So that's how it works for one way or, yeah, single floors. This I'm sure you must have covered in the first year, whereby timber joists are put in the shorter direction. You have walls in the other direction, and you can call them as, then the load transfers via the timber joists via a wall plate onto the walls. That's single. This called as a single floor. In the other one, yeah, where the spans become large between 3 and 6 meters, then what you do is that, you put additional members. Yeah, you put additional spanning members that are there. Yeah, in a manner such that you create further internal smaller spans of 3 to 3.5 meters, such that you can then put joist in the other direction. Yeah, so you put this heavy duty member. Yeah, and thereby you cut down the span to 3 to 3.5 by adding. So suppose I put one member here. Yeah, this 6 meter or this 8 meter has been easily cut down to 4 meters and 4 meters. Yeah, whereby in the other direction I can now put the joist at 3 to 3.5 meters, and then, but naturally the other joist will come about in the middle. So I'm creating a floor. I'm trying to use as many metal members. I'm trying to use as many smaller metal members by just adding one additional heavy member. Now look at what is called as a triple floor. Here the span is somewhere beyond 10 meters. And what I'm doing is I'm putting a girder across. Then and in between girders, so I have girders now at between 5 and 6 meters. Okay, so I'm now doing all the three. So along the 10 meter, I'm putting a girder. Along the 5 meter, I'm putting in a heavy sub beam. Yeah, in some sense, this is a sub. These are all sub beams. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have put sub beams, and in between sub beams, I'm now putting smaller joists that are there. Yeah. So I am. So what you see is that if I try to put any member, if you, the way you see, a sub beam is much heavier than a small joist, a spanning joist. So the spanning joist is the smallest, but that's in its depth. By having small members, I'm using minimal material, thereby making my structure very economic. because steel is measured in weight. And so using any heavy member, that means direct proportionate to costing. So I'd like to use as many smaller members if possible. Yeah. So how do I make sure I'm using many more smaller members as compared to using larger members is by adding a couple of few larger members. That is, I'm using one larger member as that of uh, so to say, as that of sub beam. Yeah, then I can, but naturally in between this, if I, by adding a sub beam, I am further subdividing the bay into smaller bay of 3 to 3.5, whereby I can again go by putting joists. And in a triple floor, I might as well go as for a girder or a truss. Yeah, if you're wanting a sloping roof, a girder or a truss makes sense. Yeah, a truss makes more sense. If you're using a flat roof, maybe perhaps a girder. And on a girder, I'm again further using, between girders, I'm further using. So I have divided that. I first spanned the 10-meter span, allowing me to further span it to between 5 and 6 meters, then further making it to 3 to 3.5 meters and allowing joists to take place. So what I've tried to do is I'm trying to get you to understand that for your project, yeah, you have to take a call. You have to take a call on what kind of structural system you would like to adopt on all the three layers that are there. Yeah. What looks very evident is that at the sides of your auditorium, yeah, at the sides of your auditorium, you're going to have columns. If you look at any plan of an auditorium, you will find that the side walls of the auditorium usually have the columns. Where your auditorium starts from, perhaps you'll have a slab below which is your basement. You need to take a call. What kind of a slab system will you want to adopt? Because your guides will ask you, what kind of a slab is that? Yeah, that's going to be very important. So either you may want to have a ribbed slab because you may have columns close by in one direction. Yeah, you can afford to have ribs in the longer direction. That could be one way. You could afford to have the columns placed far off, as I showed you a little earlier, and have two-way ribs, which is called as a waffle slab, which is very common in large halls and performance areas, thereby having a waffle or a two-way ribbed slab. You could have your ribs that go in diagonal patterns with cross members, calling it for a diagribbed slab. Yeah, all these slab systems are helping you to span larger spans, preferably on the ground floor. That is the first slab above the basement. Beyond that, you have the roof of the auditorium. The roof of the auditorium can afford to be lightweight. It is in your call to decide whether you'd like to have a flat roof. If you have a flat metal roof, then you can, then I just showed you, you could have a double or triple slab, triple floor plate that is there in metal, or you could have trusses. Yeah, you could have dynamic looking roof trusses. It's, if you look at all auditoriums in and around Mumbai, perhaps only the NCPs have big flat roofs. Yeah, done in RCC. Otherwise, most auditoriums in Bombay have metal roofs, either sloping down in one direction, in two directions. Yeah, thereby allowing the water to run off most easily, because the larger the spans you have on your roof, the larger the water collects, the larger the possibilities of leakage. And you don't want auditoriums that are leaking. You have a lot of false ceiling, you have bulbs, lights. Yeah, false ceilings are in POP. POP and water don't go at all with together. If there is any leakage, your POP or your false ceilings will tend to fall off, will tend to leak, will tend to get stained off. Yeah, your lights can get short, all this. So leakage is never good. So you never usually want to have a large, big flat roof where the water collects. You'd want to have a roofing system on the top whereby the water gets off. So in some sense, this project, as you start, and I'm sure this time you're only going to present concept ideas. Yeah, and preferably next time with the tablet, I'm going to make sure that the tablet works so that I'm in a position to go further into this. I'm going to be in a position to go further into the idea of what makes up the basement, what comprises of retaining walls, what comprises of a raft below. Then but naturally where I couldn't, because I couldn't sketch a lot on paint, I'll further get into the idea of these advanced slabs, one step further into advanced slabs. And then, but naturally on the top, if you are planning to have lightweight roofs, then we can look at both girders, trusses, and if there are, by that time people have already adopted certain kind of structural systems for their buildings, we can also go about solving them. Yeah. I think for today, we'll stop at this. Other than that, other than if people have any queries to ask, because I'm having a difficulty in conveying today, considering earlier in the last 1 year, I have sketched extensively on the tablet. Sadly, from morning, I always thought it would regenerate and start working, but beyond that and I'm sure by next time it will fall in place. But beyond that, is there anybody who would like to, but is the concept clear of the 3 floor plates that your project is about to experience? Not to forget, there is a balcony that we are going to look at also in detail. Those people should plan for good balconies, if not large ones, at least small ones, in order to create the dynamic of the space, so that we can have large volumes and in which you can have floating balconies, small balconies, premium seats if they are possible, or privacy, whatever you could call, box galleries or balconies and things like that. And balconies are in most sense are cantilevers. So I'll use the opportunity next time also to help understand those, that how do balconies work based on the kind of structural system that exists. So in one volume, we are going to have as good as 3 to 4 structural systems. One of the base that calls as a raft, one as the ground floor plate where your auditorium starts, that will preferably be in concrete, then a balcony area 3, and the 4th is the roof. So in some sense, this is a compilation of 4 systems in one volume. Yeah, I hope I've been able to convey that. How we can resolve it, there is going to be time for that, and preferably both myself and Neeraj, as and when we interact with you again, we should be in a position to solve those out. Yes, anybody has any query for the day?
I think you had, sorry, go ahead. Someone else.
Go ahead, Shravan. No problem.
I think,
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting someone. So I think
Yeah.
earlier you had shown us these kind of spaces where the auditorium has its slope going up for the seats, and instead of covering up that kind of recess that comes into the wall, the architects are actually using that recess as a kind of space that shrinks down to the floor. Right. So how does the structuring of that work? Was that supported by columns, or was it like a cantilever, was it supported like we support a staircase?
First of all, there are columns at either ends through which this slab goes upward. There is without any doubt. The raking of the seats, the slab of the raking of the seats, that's what you're talking about, right? Initially,
Yes.
the steps of the raking of the seats are always supported by columns on either sides, because there is always something below the auditorium floor, largely for services and air conditioning that is there. The space that you're talking about in the lobby area, where the seats come out and you're getting this kind of a projected volume that comes into the lobby area, most of the time is a cantilever, because your columns end there, and that part block either of the either a part of the upper lobby, or either a part of the projection room, or either a part of the balcony area that projects into the lobby is most of the time a cantilever. But don't forget, no cantilever can work in isolation. A cantilever can only work 1/3 if 2/3 of it is well supported as part of the raking of the seats. Yeah, I wish I could sketch today. But are you getting it? It's a large part of a slab that is coming all the way from the auditorium, through which only 1/3 of it cantilevers outside that as a volume can be
Right.
seen. Yeah. So
So it's somewhat like, instead of a cantilever that's at 0 degrees, it's a cantilever that's been placed at the angle of
yeah. So if I can
sea,
sketch
or the
that,
incline of the sea.
suppose I draw a section. Suppose I'm drawing a section. Yeah, that's your floor. That's your floor that is there. Yeah,
Actually, screen
that's.
is not being shared
Oh,
right
sorry.
now. Yeah.
Sorry. Let me just see. Screen is shared. I'm sharing the screen. Screen. Yeah, you can see the screen.
I'm not able to
No,
see
no,
it.
we are not.
Not yet.
It's not being shared.
Not
Yeah.
sure if anyone.
Just a minute. Share screen. Now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So suppose this is your so this is your ground floor plate. In some sense, this is your ground floor plate. Suppose your stage comes somewhere here, and that's the raking of your seats. That's I'll take some part of this. So I'll take some part of this flat, and then I'll rake the seats that come down. Yeah. Now these raking of the seats are but naturally supported by, this is a slab in which the columns are on either ends, and I can see those columns either encased in the wall at the that is there. Now this part, what you're talking about, that is projecting into this lobby area. Suppose this is your large lobby area. Yeah. And this part of the balcony or this part of the lobby is cantilevering out. Yeah. This is what you want to perhaps see, that comes out into the lobby area, can afford to be a cantilever, but this cantilever can afford to be only and only because this is well supported on columns on either side. Yeah, there can be no cantilever without its 2/3 area well anchored inside. Yeah. So this cantilever, if you'd want to see this as, you could have a column here and take care of that in the lobby area itself. But if this is not a column that you'd want to see, and if this is the lobby area that is there and you'd want to see that projection that comes out that I showed last time as part of Premabai Hall's and all of it, there have been multiple areas that this niche of the auditorium is used well as compared to the larger volume of the lobby. But naturally this cantilever is possible only because of the it is only possible because of the raking of the seats inside. Yeah. But naturally the balcony, if there is another additional balcony that is there, then these columns at the sides are further going to be helping in holding onto the balcony, but I'll get to that next time. So bottom line, what I'm trying to convey is that no sooner than later does your design sit. There are going to be couple of hard decisions that you have to take. Yeah. And uh, yeah, uh, there's a couple of hard decisions that you need to take, and what I intend to do as part of the, what we intend to do as part of the, what we intend to do part of the, so to say, construction class is that we intend to technically try to either solve your issues or feed into you that ground floor. Yeah, ground is going to be, the basement is going to be something called as a raft. Okay, something thick like that. Ground is going to be, some part of the ground is going to be a slab. Now that can be a flat slab, that can be a ribbed slab, waffle slab, whatever that is there. Yeah, you may perhaps enter at this level. Yeah, this is something that is going to go below the ground. Okay. Then comes your, but naturally comes your raking of, then but naturally comes some kind of your balcony. Yeah, that's something that's going to come out as a balcony, something of that may cantilever out. This is going to be a structural system in itself. And then but naturally you may want to have some kind of a lightweight roof on top. Yeah, girded, whatever that is there. Yeah. And there are going to be columns on either ends of this auditorium that is going to hold all of it. It's going to hold your basement vis-a-vis the floor, vis-a-vis the balcony, vis-a-vis the roof. And all three, if you look at it, are all four are different structural systems. This is something called designed as a raft. This is designed as an advanced slab. This is designed as an cantilevered balcony, and this is designed as a lightweight, large span roof. This is what I'm trying to tell you. No sooner than later, you will have to take a call on that. But more important of all, no sooner than later, you will have to take a call to decide what is your core as your design and what comprises of your shell outside. Yeah. So the shell is but naturally going to come here, like the shell at the back is going to accommodate green rooms, staircase that takes you right up to the fly gallery, stuff like that. Yeah. The sides are going to but naturally accommodate all kinds of toilet blocks, usually you come out of the show and go to. And this is but naturally going to be the lobby, ticketing, lobby, spill out area, staircase to go to the balcony and things like that. So there are very specific functions that happen along the envelope, and there are very specific functions that take place along the core. All you'll and your columns, but naturally other than the columns sit along the envelope, there are going to be columns. Oh my God. There are going to be columns that are going to sit along the, there are going to be columns that are going to sit along the periphery of your core. There are going to be columns here. Now, if you can afford to have columns close by here, you can afford to have either a ribbed slab. You can have ribbed slab in concrete that go like that. Yeah, along the longer direction. You can have girders on top that can take care of your roof. Bottom line, get your act together for tomorrow's sit today and sketch an idea of what is going to be your core, where are you going to accommodate your major columns, and try to explain to your guide tomorrow that you're going to have a system in some sense that is going to comprise of 4 different systems. One of basement, one of floor, one of balcony, and one of lightweight roof. I hope I've been able to convey that. I'm very sorry of not being able to draw out well today. I'm sure next time it's going to be a different story. But other than that, I hope this can help you to initiate your discussions about design with your ARD guides tomorrow. Yeah. Is there, other than Shravan, that nobody has any kind of query whatsoever? And that can be very scary for a class. Though Shravan's questions are most welcome because they do throw more light upon what perhaps we miss upon. But is there nobody in the class that has any other query? Have people already started attempting of what they would like to have for the share of an idea that is there? I hope the class did receive a presentation on institutions, character of institutions in rural settings. That's the kind of presentation we had made last time, because last time we were working in the context of Almora, and Almora was more rural than urban. And I did gather that there were a number of students now who are staying in small town rural contexts, and I thought it befitting that I share that presentation such that you know that as part of critical regionalism or as part of material and abstract regionalism, there are so many Indian architects who have designed such beautiful institutions in the rural setup, and that should help or inspire you equally. Should there be no more questions, I've taken attendance for the day. We can call it a day then. Okay, we'll stop.
I have a question not related to the lecture, but like where would we be able to find the recording of this? Like in the